Us, abandoned ship. We're not caring about this car. We're thinking about the next year.
Exit clauses, yada yada yada.
Hulkenberg is the blue shell right now. Angle grinder guy, he gets a raise.
There you go.
Whoa.
He gets both salaries.
There you go.
What are they doing with the 5th and 6th seats?
Yeah, it's just Weenie Hut Formula One Junior now.
They don't fire up the same way that F1 cars do.
Formula One fans, welcome to the Tyred Boys podcast. I'm your host Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got the Las Vegas Grand Prix to talk about this week. We've got some quick hitters, a little bit of do you work here with some announcements that have come out. We had the final race weekend for the F1 Academy here in Las Vegas as well. So a lot of good stuff to get into. But Justin, it is very good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Back for another race week. Yeah, echoes of the 2024 Formula 2 finale there in Formula 1 Academy. But yeah, we'll get to all of that in the show. Let's take care of some of the quick hitters here, Aaron.
Sounds good. So first one up, one of the Red Bull program drivers, Ayumu Iwasa, who was in Formula 2 last year, won the Super Formula Championship this year for the Drivers' Championship. So just another potential option in that Red Bull family that I think hasn't been talked as much about. So I'm curious to see what the plans end up looking like for him and his career. What opportunities that opens up. Having that much success in Super Formula obviously shows his skills, but even with 4 seats, it seems like there's a pretty limited availability at the moment. So still waiting to hear about those other Red Bull seats. With Jenson Button, who we talked about retiring last episode. There's been some conversation with the DRS system going away this season being the last. He was the first person to push the DRS button. He was joking around about being the last person or wanting to be the last person to push the DRS button. So I'm curious to see if F1 and maybe in some of the postseason testing, they end up getting Jensen out there to do any driving at the end. But just kind of a funny comment there to bring things full circle.
Yeah, how is he the first one to have like pressed the DRS button? Was he like pole position in the first race of the first season that had, or no, he would have had to be P2.
Yeah, he was the first one who I guess had the opportunity in the first race with DRS. And so yeah, I'm not sure if that was like he was P2 or if he was maybe just he was the only one in DRS range or whatever when it first became available. So but he is recorded as the official first person to have pressed the DRS button.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so like, right, it could have been a number of people. It happened to be him.
Exactly. And so
Okay.
just the kind of like funniness to be like, oh, he's the first one and the last one to push it as they're phasing it out this year. So yeah, just kind of a funny little thought there with the DRS. And of course, leading into next year, we'll get to talk a little bit more at the end of the season about maybe some of the regulation changes and things to expect for next year, like the changes that they're making to help overtaking, because they always make these changes that are supposed to help overtaking, and then people immediately complain the following season when the first race is not a banger. So we'll see how that goes with the new regulations, but moving over to a little bit with the sim racing and Max Verstappen. The Nordschleife has, and the Nürburgring has actually determined since, or I guess it was the German Motorsport Federation is allowing sim racing to count towards official circuit permits for the first time ever. Looking at Max and how much of his preparation for the Nordschleife was done through sim racing, they're giving an opportunity to earn the Nürburgring Nordschleife B permit, at least in part through sim racing, as kind of meeting some of the qualifications to take that permit test and everything. So pretty cool change for the sim racing world.
In your preliminary readings, did you come across the sim environments that would be, let's say, like FIA grade? You know, is it like iRacing, or is it just the like team-born sims that like qualify you?
So it says here in the article, drivers seeking the DPNB permit can now choose from 3 pathways: completing the standard course, finishing 2 RCN races with a driver change or 1 solo, or combining 1 RCN race with 3 penalty-free digital Nürburgring Langstrecken Series DNLS winter rounds. So I would
Okay, so
have
that's
to,
like a specific environment.
yeah, so
Okay,
specific
that's cool though.
environment for that. Um, I'm not sure if that's iRacing or if it's possible that maybe there's other sim racing opportunity or sim racing games. I guess it's just the easiest
That
way to
would be
put it.
like a professional tier.
Right. So I'll have to look into it a little bit more, but either way, a very cool opportunity that sim racers can in part use some of that sim racing to um, kind of decrease the barrier for being able to go out and drive these GT3 cars on the Nordschleife. So very cool.
How is the Gran Turismo movie more true than the F1 movie?
I mean, Emma is based on a true story, so I mean, I guess that kind of. But it's funny to think, yeah, that the video game movie is more real than the one about the actual sport. But uh, yeah, a very cool moment. I think that's awesome that Max, of course, he's like pushing to get drivers from sim racing and give them the opportunity to drive in cars with his Verstappen.com team, but also just kind of in part his own love of the sport and everything, opening up doors to people when they realize, oh, like, yeah, this is actually not a bad way to learn this circuit and everything. So you and I are going to be out here getting our B permits before too long as we keep putting in some laps on the Nordschleife. I got to work my way up from the A Bart again. So so we'll get there one day. But yeah, very cool opportunity for the sim racing world. Um, there was also a report that came out recently that the F1 or the F1 is going to be clamping down on the amount of carbon fiber in cars. I know you were excited when I told you about this, Justin. You said, screw competitiveness, just we want to see pretty colors, and I can't agree more. So 55% of the car's visible surface is going to have to be painted or have stickered liveries on there, as you and I were discussing, and we find this a kind of amusing thing that there's going to be a scrutineer who's going to have to measure the amount of paint on cars potentially, or maybe they'll have to submit diagrams of each of their liveries for some digital diagnostics to make sure that everything's up to par with that 55%. But what are your thoughts on that, Justin? I think the whole community should be excited, right?
I mean, okay. Well, yeah, no. I'm definitely the opposite of what you said my position was. I think it's funny that they have to regulate the teams like pushing further and further into like min-maxing so hard that they're not even painting their cars, where like if it were up to the teams, it would just be 10 cars that were just all carbon fiber black,
Just have
you
a
know, with
number
like
on
right, with
it.
just like a number and like the team and your sponsors. Like I think it's funny that like they see that coming in a way, and they're like, whoa, 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 we got to regulate this. In my opinion, I think that would be like the the no paint is obviously like one end of the spectrum. And I think it's funny that they are trying to say like, well, there is an element that like these cars should look good. I do believe some fans believe like, yeah, they should look good as well. It also gives sponsors an opportunity to do like one-off events and create like a bit of a moment for a brand or a name or like a family or a team or whatever. So like, you lose out on those opportunities. I can see it both ways. I I think if like we really want to be the pinnacle of motor racing, let them min max, bro. But on the other hand, good on the FIA for like seeing it and going to regulate.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is just one of those things. There's always going to be parts of the car that you can't have painted. There's going to be like the barge boards on the side, at the floor, and different things like that. That like those are always going to be carbon fiber. So I think it's smart of them to like kind of be a little bit more lenient with just 55% of the car and be like, yes, there are going to be parts of the car that just it doesn't make sense to paint if
Hmm.
you're changing these pieces constantly or all sorts of stuff. So yeah, but just a funny announcement there with that. One of the other announcements that came along with this announcement was that drivers will also now be allowed to change their racing number. So whatever number they pick coming into F1 previously, unless they become number one after winning the championship, that you're stuck with that number just permanently. And so there's been a lot of conversation about Max in particular, if he is going to, when he loses the number one, is he going to go back to 33? He said he might want to go for the number three, which Daniel Ricciardo previously had. He's also tossed around the idea of being number 69 because he loves that number. And so there's some other potential number swaps and things that could happen as well.
Yo, let them do gamer tags.
There we go. They already have their Twitter handles inside the Halo on some of the cars. So I mean, there we go. Instead, it's just your Twitch handle. It's your Discord QR code. Add a friend.
Max doesn't go back to 33. It's Max Frag 69.
I mean, sounds about right. So I think it would be amusing to see some of the drivers potentially change their numbers like Max. I don't know if many drivers would jump at the opportunity. A lot of them
Yeah,
seem
that seems like
pretty
whatever.
content with it, but just kind of a small one tagged on to the painting from the from F1 for
I mean,
next year.
good luck numbers is right up there with like tarot cards, in my opinion, for superstition. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a
I don't know,
favorite
man.
number, but I don't think anything lucky about it or personally have a I'm not into numerology personally, but some people out there are, so hey, have at it. If it's lucky to you, it's lucky to you. Um
Fair.
one of the other decisions that's being tossed around a little bit by F1 is to potentially make two pit stops mandatory for races for the future to create more tire compound parity. So the other proposals that were tossed out were or are being tossed around per se would be having to use all three tire compounds in a race or a two stop and just you have to use two tire compounds and kind of keep the same way it is. So and with that, even for next race, Pirelli has announced that they say that 25 laps is the maximum laps per tire set in Qatar. I don't know if that's going to be a mandated thing, but Qatar has 57 laps, so that would be essentially a mandated two stop. I don't know if that's going to be like they have to, or if they're like, this is the longest that you should safely go on these tires. Um, but that will be interesting to see with the Qatar race and see if they're kind of lightly testing that out.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to test out different rule sets and different like because effectively they would just be different like race formats, right?
Yeah,
I think that's interesting because yeah, in the long run, like unless something unless something wild happens, I don't think anybody likes the race where the P2 and P1 driver have a it was like a it was just like an attack defense and the race was over. Like as far
yeah,
as like the contest of like who is going to win this event, it was over. And you immediately just have to start looking at like, okay, what's the next best storyline, right? And
yeah,
there is like no fight. And whether you are a McLaren fan, whether you're a George fan, whether you're a Max fan, like that's not that interesting because
yeah,
now you know like just like what is going to happen in 49 laps, or at least like a critically minded viewer of the sport could likely guess like what's going to happen, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
and
So right, so it's not
yeah.
surprising that they're going to look for options to like try and mix it up and put rule based pressures on the team if like they are just like that tuned.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going and saying, "Hey, this is like you for safety reasons, we are making the tires better, less likely to degrade quickly, and have blowouts and things like that during the race and all. Like we're doing it. This is a safety measure to make the tires more durable. We know that that means that you can one stop just about any race if you want to. So we're going to put this in place. I don't think that's a bad option either. If there's like, yeah, specific reasoning behind it versus Pirelli being like, well, we could make tires that are a little bit like more finicky or you have to, they degrade a little bit quicker. You can't coast on softs for 50 laps during a race and everything. Um, but yeah, I think if there's like good reasoning behind it and everything, then hey, I'm for it. If it's going to give us better racing, like you said, there's the tires sometimes like you try to attack once, they overheat too much that you can't get close again for the rest of the race, and you just sit in a train and unless you mess up your pit stop or something else crazy happens, you're just kind of stuck where you're at, and that isn't very exciting to watch. So I'm definitely on board with figuring out changes and like you said, just testing out multiple different options to try and figure out what the best solution is. Um, I'd prefer that and them to maybe announce like, hey, in this first year of the regulations, we're going to try out multiple different things across the season. Like that would be fine by me too, so that they're not just saying we think this is going to be the best, we're going to stick with it for a full 24 race season even if it sucks, and then
They've never done that.
like try something new. No, and they don't, but I wouldn't even mind them like saying flat out like we're going to do try all three of these or all these different options throughout the season, and we'll announce like ahead of time for the races kind of what that expectation would be, just to get a better idea overall. So I guess we'll see how that goes, if that is the way Qatar is expected to be. But yeah, a little bit of a interesting uh, potential shakeup with those regulations for next year as well.
I agree. Yeah, never say never. I think that was a little bit hasty. Yeah, I'm sure you could look back in like recent history and find an example of that. But I was just thinking of like they've tinkered with ideas without throwing them full bore in. Like, for example, one that I really liked that we haven't seen a lot of was the qualifying sessions where it's Q1 on the hards, Q2 on the mediums, Q3 on the
So
softs.
all the sprint qualies, yeah,
Like
that's the
I okay, that's the sprint
yeah,
quali
that's the
format.
sprint quali. They do all
Gotcha.
three tire compounds. Yep.
Like I like that format change and that format like tinker how
Mhm.
they got there. So yeah, often like they kind of know what they're doing. So hopefully they're able to find that balance between, because it is, you're trying to find this nice balance between like competitiveness where it feels like anybody can win, safety, and the like I don't know, yeah, just like safety and competitiveness, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean you also have to look at like how this affects like your sustainability pledge and everything. Do teams come with
Sure.
the same amount of tires and you're just expected to use more? Okay, well teams are going to have to save more tires during practice sessions and things like that, or qualifying sessions, to make sure they have the right sets of tires out there and all. And I think that is just one of the other potential like concerns with that just is the usage of more tires per race, most likely. So that's another thing that could be part of the conversation, but I'm sure they'll figure out a good balance if they decide to do that moving forward.
Yep.
But that wraps up this week's quick hitters. So we'll hop over to do your work here, where we had a couple of announcements come out. Nothing too crazy with the first two, but Mick Schumacher, who had done some testing over in IndyCar, has officially signed with Rahal Letterman Lanigan to go drive for them in IndyCar in the 2026 season. He'll be driving the number 47 car for them. So it's gonna be cool to see him back out there more. I know he was driving in WEC, but I've watched more IndyCar, so I'll be looking forward to seeing how he performs there in the IndyCar field. I think he could be a good addition to the team.
Yeah, 47. That's an interesting number choice. Like for him particularly, yeah, 47, that's an interesting choice for him. Yeah, the moon alignment's telling me that's something.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's apparently, I just googled to see if there was a reason. It's apparently his favorite number being 4, his father's being 7, so and 7 world championships for his dad, so 47. Um
Okay,
so it's
that's pretty cool.
yeah, so numerology, there we go. But another F1 family with the Hakkinen family has had Ella Hakkinen, Mika Hakkinen's daughter, announce that she is now going to be partnered with the driver development program for McLaren starting this coming year. So doing a couple year preparation for single seaters. She's 14 years old now. So she's been karting. She's won some major races over in the European karting series, and so she's looks like she could be a very strong driver in single seaters down the road. And with her father being one of the greats of F1, I'll say. It'll be cool to see how that progress goes from this karting era for her career to potentially F1 Academy and further on. So it's kind of cool that we're seeing some of these younger uh, female drivers getting these opportunities to sign. Obviously, she has the name as pedigree to give her a little bit more of a leg up in getting that opportunity, but still a very cool opportunity to see her get to go racing in the McLaren Papaya.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. Yeah, I mean, racing tends to run in the blood. Even the motor racing circuit developers, have family ties as well. I'll give you this one for free. This isn't in the hot seat. It could have been though. The Formula One race track designer Herman Tilke, his son developed the Las Vegas circuit. So
Oh,
there's
very
like there's
interesting.
just yeah, there's just all sorts of family ties in Formula One, no matter where you look. So yeah, I'll be looking for Ella Hakkinen in the Formula One Academy, sometime into the future as her career progresses.
Yeah, so very very cool opportunity for her, and definitely something to keep an eye on. And then looking over into F1 itself, Aston Martin has had a few announcements this past week. There was the announcement that Felipe Drogovic is going to be leaving and going to drive for the Andretti Formula E team this coming year. So potentially looking to find a slightly new route into an F1 seat potentially with the Cadillac Andretti sponsor or partnership that's going to be coming into Formula One next year. That might be his opportunity to try and prove himself and get another reserve driver seat over with Cadillac. We'll see how that goes, but no, I mean I think at this point it's a good choice for him to go and show that he can still drive, especially if he might have that opportunity with the Cadillac team as being one of the potential younger drivers to fill a seat once we're seeing where Valtteri and Checo's careers go from next year on. Um, they also announced with Aston Martin that Andy Cowell is going to be replaced as the team principal and CEO. So there's some conversations about who might fill that seat. Andreas Seidel has been mentioned. Christian Horner's name has come up in conversation. Adrian Newey was asked if he would be fine working with Christian Horner again, and he said, "Yeah, sure." So that's a potential option there for Aston Martin, but no official announcement, of course, of who that next team principal will be, but a couple potential names out there.
Yeah, it's fascinating to always hear so much about the change of leadership in teams because, like, for the viewer just of the sport, it's really tough to get a sense of like what their metrics are, like how they determine success, like from that role in the company all the way down to like, is it just as simple as like getting wins or not? Is it like the lack of getting wins is like the CEO's fault? It's interesting to see these just changes of leadership go, just like every couple of years. And it seems like it's often pretty unclear usually as like to the reasons why. It's just the announcement that like this is happening. So
Yeah,
I guess as the viewer, we just assume like, okay, well, if they're not getting wins, if they're not getting success, all the way down at like the team driver, like car level, okay, that just goes all the way up and we change leadership and roll it again.
yeah.
Is that just like the kind of fair view of it?
I think that's a reasonable way to look at it. Like I feel like if a lot of these things it comes down to the ownership and everything. Like there Red Bull had Christian Horner in for 20 some odd years, and it was there was very little likelihood of him moving until Max's potential opportunities or staying with the team kind of came into question with everything this year. And so it's kind of a um, crazy thing where I think if yeah, like depending on the ownership, they could be okay with, hey, like Gunter Steiner, we know that Haas is not putting buckets of money in, but we have certain goals that you have to hit. We're not expecting you to win races this year or next year, but we expect in 4 years that you can put together an organization that is competing to win a race kind of thing. And okay, maybe for Aston Martin, they are looking and saying, well, a couple years ago, we were with uh Mike Crack, I think it was their team principal previously,
Okay.
where they had the Aston Martin, the Mercedes Part Two or whatever they were calling it, the second Red Bull or whichever one Fernando Alonso was reaching podiums race after race, and then their trajectory over the past 2 years has declined, and they're going, okay, well, maybe we did get rid of the wrong guy or make the wrong change if our trajectory is going down, and they're ready to make that change again. I'm sure a lot of it just comes down to what are the expectations of the board or the owners, and how much time are they willing to give someone to get to a competitive level. And I feel like a lot of them are pretty reasonable. Like I said, with Haas, they had Gunter for a while before making that change. I think kind of knowing that they're not dumping buckets of money into the car. But then when you have Lawrence Stroll and the owners of Aston Martin, who have plenty of money that they want to throw around in this sport, they're hiring Adrian Newey for probably some ungodly sum of money, whatever it was when we were talking about it, and then kind of trying to figure out how to create this best car in the field. They're maybe a little more actively looking to move quicker on those decisions if they don't see something working out.
Right, which means from the leadership perspective, they see it as just like, oh, we're right there. Like we just need, this little bit. It's like, oh, maybe we, and it's interesting that from the inside, they feel like they're right there. Because sometimes on a like weekend to weekend basis, I
Yeah,
forget there's other cars on the grid.
yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be one of those things that they're like, if we're gonna spend all this money now to go after it, get the guy who we think's the best designer out there, get these
Mm-hmm.
personnel, have people coming and all, like, we need to make sure that we have who we think is the best option at the helm too, because if there are other personnel to say, it seems like to be that the team principal, part of their biggest job is just building the team really around them
Right,
and all. And so if
right, like
they're,
talent selection.
yeah, so I feel like that's part of why they kind of are the head
Mm.
that gets chopped the most frequently, because they're like, they're the ones who would be making those decisions further down, and if they're not, then hey, it is what it is. um
Sure. No, those are really good thoughts. That's like really good insight. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so I think it'll be very interesting to see if they do go with someone like Christian Horner, who has a track record of being successful in Formula One and
He
everything.
wins.
I mean, he does. He's been able to put together multiple
Seb and
stretches, and yeah, multiple sets of championships, different drivers, different regulations, and
like
everything.
eras.
Yeah.
Like Seb era and Max era.
Yeah, and with a significant gap in between them too. Like it wasn't
Sh-
just the next year, like the car carried over with a new guy. Like it's yeah,
Bro.
he's been
Yeah,
able to.
yeah. Yeah, but you were up against like Lewis. Like he's an aberration. Like any like every other team principal couldn't win against him.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
I'm
plenty of.
just saying like
Oh,
you can't like
100%.
drown him for that
Oh,
one.
no, I'm not. I'm just saying, I'm saying like he did it. Yeah, like same thing as you. Like two separate times with enough of a gap that it was like not just, oh well, the Seb era ran immediately into the Max era. They just kept the good car all through these championships. Like no,
Sure,
he's put
sure.
together the
These
team
narratives like
multiple.
fall apart.
Yeah, he's put together the team multiple times to build a championship winning car. So, um, yeah, I think that's an interesting potential option there. But uh, we'll see how some of these other. I'm sure there will be other personnel announcements kind of as the years are wrapping up for some of the teams. 2 race weekends left to go now that we're through Las Vegas. So yeah, few different things that we're still waiting on for Do You Work here to wrap things up for next year.
Yeah, a little bit to chew on, and then we'll also, be looking for like any tidbits about the upcoming like season with the shift of regulations. There'll be, I'm sure, some other what would you say? Yeah, like personnel changes and everything, as well as like, we're following the Cadillac story, as we get new information, we share that here. So yeah, all things to follow for the for the producers at the Do You Work Here segment.
Absolutely. So we'll keep you up to date on driver lineups and any other news there. We'll hop over to F1 Academy here in just a moment. But before we do, we just want to remind you guys, if you're listening along, if you're following along, want to talk about F1, join our Discord. All of the links are in our link tree for that. Follow the podcast, share it with your friends, your family, anyone who you think might enjoy being part of our F1 community. We appreciate all of you. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for spending the 2025 season with us. I think it's been a really good season, and we've experienced a good amount of growth this year. So, to all the new listeners, to all the continuing listeners, just want to say a big thank you. Just give a big shout out to you guys. You made 2025 a good one as far as the Tyred Boys podcast go. So yeah, coming into the like United States Thanksgiving season, I just want to say big thank you to the longstanding and the new listeners and viewers. We're very grateful. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And moving over into the F1 Academy Las Vegas weekend, we had a couple of announcements kind of before the race, this being the final race of the season, or one announcement being that Lego was going to or will be sponsoring an F1 Academy car next year. So we'll have a cool Lego livery out on the grid, another opportunity for drivers to to have a full-time sponsor throughout the year, like we've seen with, I think Tommy Hilfiger was one of the ones, and there's been a couple of different other title sponsors for F1 Academy across the year. So a very cool thing. They also did Lego bouquets of flowers for all of the podium finishers for the Las Vegas Grand Prix as part of the announcement and everything. So a very cool opportunity there for all of us Lego fans and F1 fans.
Yeah, and if you saw the like post race celebrations for the main race, it was a Lego car that was driven by Terry Crews to the to the podium. So Lego sponsoring the part of the post race ceremony. I believe there was like a Mickey Mouse and a Minnie Mouse show like before the race. That's part of like the Disney sponsorship going on. So yeah, it seems like F1 has been like partnering with some like really popular brands to just like get some more eyes on the sport, and then combine that with Formula One Academy, which I think has been growing in success. I mean, the series has made like a genuine fan out of me, like a genuine fan out of me, where like I'll admit like we just watched it as like like it's a supporting race, like we want to cover it, we want to support it, but like I, I was like, I was like, okay. And then, you tune in enough times and you have a like a genuinely interesting broadcast. You have like two people on the broadcast that are like fans of the sport, really know what they're talking about, really entertaining, bringing you the events. The drivers are solid, like solid drivers, competitive in their own right. Like I'll be honest, like some of the best battles that we've seen over the course of 2025 weren't in the main Formula One races. They were in the Formula Two races and they were in the Formula One Academy races. Like these guys like know how to go after it. So yeah, I'm happy that the Lego sponsorship will bring more eyes to Formula One Academy. to boost that series up because like I think it brings genuine value to like that end of the single seater racing spectrum. Because like I said, like it's made a fan out of me, so I'm all for it.
Absolutely. I think we've seen some really good racing, and I think it's meeting its goal. It's highlighting these women drivers, giving them the opportunity to partner with teams and further their racing careers and everything with those partnerships. And I think it's it's going to continue to be a success. Susie Wolf is a fantastic um, head for the F1 Academy program and everything. A great person to have there. She knows what she's doing, and she's really built this into a great thing. And some of these new partnerships, like the Lego one, are very exciting because it shows that companies and partners want this to be around and want to continue giving these opportunities. So it's a very, very cool thing. Um, with the F1 Academy, though, of course, there's the 2 year limit. So the other kind of not news, everyone knows this, but with this being the last race, it or last race weekend, it was the last race weekend in F1 Academy for Dorian Penn, Tina Hausman, Chloe Chong, Leah Block, Maya Vogue, and Chloe Chambers. So a number of drivers who have hit their second year, and so um, one thing that now I'm excited to see, and we'll talk about, I'm sure, in our quick hitters, is where some of these drivers go for their next steps. Whether it's like Abby Pulling driving in GB3, whether we see some of them go to other racing series. Dorian Penn drives for the Iron Dames in. Um, I believe that's in GT3. So she's already got another drive that we'll be able to see her in. Um, but yeah, just exciting to see with the new drivers coming in. Some good racing going in 2026 for the F1 Academy.
Yeah, Abby Pulling, by the way, finished P10 in the GB3 championship. So like genuine
Nice.
competitor over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so she had the one win at least. And so very cool for her rookie year over in GB3. And hopefully that'll give her an opportunity to race again next year and show some improvement there, or even potentially move up to I guess a lot of people would kind of start heading towards F3 from GB3. So exciting opportunity.
Of the lot that you mentioned from this year, Dorian Pan, Tina Hausman, and them, I think I'd be most encouraged to watch Dorian Pan's career after this, especially if she is driving GT. I think that would be the next series that like interests me the most. For like to check out a racer's career, just like get into a series just to watch like one driver, right? It'd be like
Yeah,
when you tuned into IndyCar, like to watch Romain Grosjean, like
right.
something similar to this. I think Dorian Penn was the type of driver that would be very encouraging to follow and see how she does over with the Iron Dames. So yeah, hopefully a couple of these drivers can get some good opportunities because yeah, they definitely put some good races down on the track, and it was definitely a fun year. The finale for the year, though, I think, like I alluded to earlier, definitely echoes of last year's Formula 2 season finale, where like it was just a non-starter right from the beginning. I think the key mistake from Maya Voog in race one, like that kind of did it for her. Not
Yeah.
only would she have had to like pull something crazy for race two, but like fate also wouldn't have been in her hands. Like Dorian Pan, like something brutal would have had to happen to Dorian Pan
Mm.
too, based on like her starting position as well. So I think unfortunately, what was a kind of a knockdown drag out type of season kind of ends in a whimper in that regard. But it is crazy, like for the Ferrari supported driver of Maya Vogue, like just one mistake and it's just toasted. Like it was so close, right? What are
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on this scenario?
Yeah, and I mean, just really tough. Like it's weird area. You're on a track that's pretty wet, that's also slick normally without the circuit being wet. A track that we saw a number of the F1 drivers struggling with the wet weather during qualifying to break for some of the different break points and everything. And unfortunately, with this being a rolling start and everything, it's like a safety car restart. We see people mess up safety car restarts frequently and have incidents and things like that all throughout the different fields of drivers. So yeah, just a really unfortunate incident for Maya Vogue to go into Tina Hausman and take them both out there just on the formation lap, coming around and everything, getting ready to get started in the wet weather. But we saw a number of the other drivers have incidents throughout the race. If it didn't happen at the start, there's nothing to say something couldn't have happened later on. But yeah, just it did kind of leave race two to be more of a race to see if Dorian Pan was gonna just all she had to do was finish in the points and she secured the championship. So based on her season and everything, I think that would be expected without something catastrophic happening, which you don't want to see that decide the season as well. Um, but just a tough spot for Maya Vogue. It was a mistake anyone could have made, and unfortunately cost her that opportunity to really go after it and fight it out for the championship here.
It's funny. It's funny for Dorian Penn. You say like all she needed to do was finish in the points, right? Like she was so like head down, just worrying about that race and like finishing as high as she could in that race. Like thinking like, the championship will follow if I do well in the race. Lap one, she is sending it down the inside, and it's like, bro, like all you have to do is just basically finish this race. She's like, no, I'm racing for position here. So like, I love to see that. I love that she like won the championship on the attacking foot. So yeah, I think obviously a solid way for her to end it, just as far as like entertainment value for like the fans and the viewers. We didn't get that all the way down to the final, to the final race. I think that would have been, pretty epic. But yeah, I think the season that we got was solid, and congratulations to Dorian Pan. Drove a great like Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend. I think she did a solid job, obviously. And
Mhm.
then yeah, over the course of the season, kudos on the big dub, because that's like very exciting. First year doesn't get it, loses to Abby Pulling. Second year that she's allowed to drive, gets it. And I'll give you a stat. I'll give you a Dorian Pan stat. 100% point scoring career.
Yep.
Every race that she ran in Formula One Academy, she
Oh
scored
wow, I
points.
didn't
It's
know.
like
I knew she did this season, and that was what I was going to bring
back to
up
back.
next. Was that is just so consistently strong to never finish out of the point, and it wasn't that cost uh that moment that cost Maya Vogue the championship. Like she was already behind. Dorian could have easily
Right.
still won without that happening. And part of that is because of the consistency that she had across the year. Maya Vogue had two other races that she didn't score any points in across the year. Dorian is the only driver on the grid this season to score points in every single race. Like that is it. That's why she secured the championship. And that strong driving and consistent driving across the whole season put her in the best position. And so yeah, big props to her and congratulations on the championship. It's very exciting, and we saw her even being in that position. Like you said, she drove a phenomenal weekend. She finishes P1 in race one of the weekend. Race two, she's battling and duking it out, finishes P5 with still a strong finish there. She, yeah, just was very strong throughout the Las Vegas weekend, and yeah, she's a very exciting driver to watch. She's fun, and that's uh a lot of the enjoyment in the F1 Academy is seeing these young drivers just get to compete. So
Yeah, big time agree. And then see how the modern female single seater, like, see how the top of that class does against their against the just peers, I'll say, that they're like moving out into, because what we're finding is Formula One Academy isn't like the end goal. It's just a premier series that some will get to race in, but they will be looking to find other drives elsewhere afterwards, because there is that 2 year limit, right? It's trying to turn over and get drivers out into the ecosystem. Less of a like a legacy program where you can be at the same team for 8 years or whatever. And I think that's an interesting angle. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they do against their peers in these other series. Like I said, Abby Pulling, just middle of the pack in GB3, people ahead of her, people behind her. I think that's like great to see, and the floor is rising, basically, is what I'm saying. Just like
yeah,
among all motorsports.
yeah, and I mean it's a feeder series. Like the 2 year limit, like the goal is to propel these drivers into other opportunities and not to have
Sure.
someone stagnate at that level and everything. Like you said, keep new drivers coming in, give those opportunities. But to cap off a pretty good season, all Chloe Chambers, another driver that I'm curious to see where she goes. She had the race 2 win and had a lot of really good moments throughout the year. She had her fair share of mistakes and incidents and everything, just like a lot of the drivers did. But some really strong pace from her to get that win in race 2. And then looking to next year, there's still a number of drivers that are going to be on this F1 Academy grid that I think are going to be really exciting to watch in the championship fight next year. Palmowski and then Nina Gateman are both have had really strong finishes to the season and some strong performances throughout. So at a couple of the exciting drivers that we'll get to see next year in F1 Academy as well. So it'll be very fun to get into next year. So
I think this is the last thing I'll say about it. Of the top Formula One Academy drivers, I think Chloe Chambers made the most unforced errors of like her pin and Maya Vogue. Like her fight ended like a few races ago.
yeah,
She kind of fell out of contention a few races ago. A few of her races ended by just pure mistakes from her. Where
yeah, not
contrast
getting
that with
started on the start line or things, yeah,
right.
things like that yeah are just easy mistakes to make, but you don't want to see those happening if you're a championship contender.
But yeah, I like the Palmowski shout for 2026, the Red Bull supported driver. So yeah, we'll see how that season shapes up. Definitely. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. Note about Susie Wolf. She's at like every single race, and I appreciate that. She's there, like in conversation with the drivers. She's out there talking to people and getting involved. So I appreciate that she's not just like a name associated with the series. I like how she is like very visible among her drivers and among her teams. And I think I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and I think she's just the right person for the job. She fits in to that environment well. She knows what it's like to be a woman in motorsport who's also just a competitor and everything. Like she's been a racer previously. Like she knows
Hmm.
what that environment is like, and her husband Toto is obviously been a part of that competition in F1 for many years now, and she's been there to see all of that through as well. So I think just a great person to have in the role. And yeah, we definitely shout out to Susie. We appreciate all that she's done with F1 Academy to make it what it, or to help get it to where what it is. The drivers make it what it is, but she has a good part in that. But
I mean,
moving,
two like genuinely exciting champions from her
yeah,
series, Abby Pulling and Dorian Pan. You know, I think that's like you know, she's had some solid full seasons and winners, solid competition overall. So yeah, I just think they're doing good stuff over there. That's the last thing I'll say.
yeah. So big shout out there. But to move over into the F1 part of the weekend here, we'll get into the hot seat here for the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
All right, bro, you're so lucky. This is like the least amount of history possible
I
for a
know
race.
that it makes me
There's like
nervous. Because I knew you were gonna lead into this like, oh, this should be cake for you, and then as soon as I start overthinking,
yeah, I'm just
it's
gonna hit you with
go.
every obscure like yeah. No. All right.
The
Uh
third casino that they pass on the strip is.
oh shit. I think you read my notes. All right. For those of you playing at home, we got five multiple choice questions, 3 answers each. We're gonna put Aaron in the hot seat, see how many he can get right. Feel free to play along at home. I'll read out the questions here. Aaron, you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Question number one. Even for Formula One standards, the Las Vegas Strip Circuit is a new race on a new track. What year was the inaugural race held for this Grand Prix? Was it A, 2025, B, 2024, or C, 2023?
B 2020. No. C 2023. Sorry, I was doing math wrong. This is the third year of it, so 2023.
Is C your final answer,
C is my
sir?
final answer.
Hell yeah, that is
C.
correct.
I knew I was gonna mess up as soon as
We've had 3 years of the Las Vegas Grand Prix so far. Question number two. Las Vegas was last featured on the Formula One calendar as the last race in the 1982 season, featuring Elaine Prost on pole for the start of the race. What was the name of that Grand Prix? Was it A, the Caesars Palace Grand Prix, B, Bellagio Grand Prix, or C, the Paradise Grand Prix?
Ooh. I'll go the Paradise Grand Prix.
You are incorrect, sir. Paradise is the name of the city that the track is located in. It was the Caesars Palace Grand Prix.
Okay. Interesting. I was trying
Now,
to think if Caesar's Palace or the Bellagio, like how long they had been around, but yeah, I guess early 80s. That makes sense.
I think they've been around for a
Yeah,
while. You know, I think they're in like, you know, even like Vegas like nostalgia movies. Like I think they're there. You know, I
yeah.
think they're like long-standing ones. Okay, question number three. This year, the Las Vegas Grand Prix was the location of the Formula One Academy finale, a supporting category for top female drivers. Who won that championship this year? Was it A, Maya Vogue? Was it B, Dorian Pan? Or was it C, Chloe Chambers?
B Dorian Pan.
You are correct, sir. Uh, we've got question number four. Positioned inside corners 5 through 10. This iconic landmark on the strip adds a unique active element and a tough challenge for the drivers. Is it A, Treasure Island? Is it B, the Sphere? Or is it C, Bellagio Fountains?
Um B the Sphere.
You are correct, sir. The just the pinnacle, just the pinnacle of advertising. And question number five, a tough customer for all circuits. Max Verstappen has not only won 2 out of 3 outings for the race, but also set the race lap record for this 6.2 kilometer race this year as well. What was that lap time? Was it A, 2 minutes 6 seconds? Was it B, a minute and 54 seconds? Or was it C, a minute and 33 seconds?
C, a minute 33 seconds.
You are correct, sir. He was way faster than the Ferrari, than the Ferrari that set the 154, and he was way faster than Chloe Chambers, who set the 206.
Okay, there we go. 4 out of 5, not too shabby. I'll take it this week.
Not bad. Question number 2 only would have been if you read the Wikipedia page as well. I figured I'd get you on that one. But yeah, 4 out of 5, not bad. But yeah, I think you kind of cheated by doing the Formula One Academy section first. I'm just gonna say that.
Well, until you
Because that gave
said
you the answer,
that,
by the
I
way.
was like, I could edit that part. Like, no one will know that I did that if they just watch. If I can get this edited into a short again and put it out there, no one would have known. But you just blew up my spot. So.
I did do that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So 4 out of 5, with a little bit of helpful knowledge from earlier in the episode. But that wraps up the hot seat this week, and we'll jump right into some salacious headlines. So Justin, what have you got for your first headline here?
Because you tossed to me, I'll do it like this. These are obviously one of my favorite type of headlines to read online. These are the YouTube videos that I click immediately, and these are the reels that I'm just locked into when I'm scrolling. Was the title fight really just decided by a plankware violation?
That is I mean, that is pretty on par. My first headline was lost by a hair because
Okay,
the plankware was the amount of plankware that it was passed was about the width of a single hair
sure.
for Lando's plankware. But yeah,
I
the
read
double.
I read 3 different articles from the same outlet all about that DQ, and every single one of them had all the numbers inside, all the little millimeters, and it's like, I mean, that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this was like, I, just like insane margins to think, right? So no, I just think that's a really fitting headline, lost by a hair.
Yeah, I mean I'm with you though. Like it is and to just talk about it a little bit, like it really it does majorly affect the championship fight and where things go from the end of the race. It Max would have needed to outscore Lando, I believe it was by 17 points next race to just stay in potential title contention. Now that Lando has to just outscore him by 2 points to or yeah, he only has to outscore Max by 2 points to uh I'm getting this reversed. Either way, Max is much closer in the championship because of this. I think uh Lando cannot lose. I can't think of how it works out with the points. I'm gonna just stop.
There
My
is
my
there
brain
is
is like,
math.
yes, there's math that it is harder for Lando to eliminate Max from the championship now, and I'm gonna leave it there. But it did get significantly harder. But at the same time, like those opinions of, oh, did this just decide? I'm sorry, but that's what F1's decided by.
Hmm.
It's millimeters, it's thousandths of a second. It's sometimes doing the same exact qualifying time as another driver down to the thousandths of a second, but you set your time after them, and so you start 8 meters back at the start of the race. Like that is the finite details that go into this sport, and so to be like, oh well, they broke the rule, the regulation, but like it was barely, so like we should just let it slide. Or I don't know if that was their opinion or if it was just like this is crazy that it was that minute of a fraction that got them disqualified. But in my opinion, like that's the way it goes. That's the min-maxing of McLaren putting their car a little bit lower to get a little bit more uh downforce on the car in a slippery circuit, and they min-maxed a little bit too close to the sun.
Yeah, I think there were reports that were saying the lack of running in the practice sessions, they like underestimated how much wear there was going to be
Yeah.
because they didn't have that long run data. And then on top of it, like, dude, the FIA sleuths, they heard on the radio McLaren telling their drivers to like, hey, stop racing, just kind of drive the car, get it home. Well, we need to make this okay. And if I was like, maybe they're gonna be low on fuel, or like, one of these common,
Mm.
metrics that they check, so it like tipped them off that like, I think they're trying to avoid some type of error, some type of mistake, some type of penalty. They obviously like didn't know what was going on. They were obviously managing. But not only, to your point, is it the insane margins that things come down to, but it's like the openness of the communication. Everybody has all the same information, and like the stewards, like, they kind of put that together pretty quickly. So yeah, all just kind of interesting things, and I think it's a story like this that is a bit 2025 in a nutshell. Something is decided after the race, the contenders in the main battle, by some like deus ex machina, like the rules are like the table's flipped on its head. Like, it's just crazy, like how F1 this was.
Oh, 100%. And like even with and so I'll give you, there's even a little bit more lore to this story, but apparently last race out in Brazil, uh there was a Japanese F1 outlet that reported that the FIA had been tipped off, or maybe recommended by some of the teams to check some of the skid blocks of different cars, because there was a an allegation that teams were using skid blocks that expand when they're heated, which would reduce the wear on the under tray, allow for lower ride height. So kind of using a different material than maybe is what the regulations say. And so I think that may have been part of this scrutineering, or why they were looking at this specific part of the car in particular. Because I know that they do check some of the cars each time, but this seemed to be a larger than normal check. And Lando's car has been checked the least for skid block wear across the season of all of the drivers. So unfortunately for the Lando truthers out there that believe that the FIA just wants to give Max a another championship, then they're gonna have to unfortunately deal with yeah, this unfortunate, and really unfortunate for the drivers, because there's nothing that they did wrong. It's one of those team errors that they didn't have the data, and then yeah, they just kind of went a little too aggressive with the plank wear. So
Two things: I did not just bootleg somebody's like content title.
oh
That is
no,
just like a kind of title that you see, and that was my own spin on
no,
it.
I gotcha. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, 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 no, I didn't think you were. Oh no, we are journalists here who are, we are coming up with our own headlines. We're writing our own papers. No
I'll tell you my
plagiarism.
experience of it though. So I stayed up late. I had I asked permission to stay up late. I had my jammies on. Race starts. Max just exists. and then wins that turn one bout with Lando Norris. And I was like, okay, well, that's probably just it. So I hit the snooze button. I woke up to Max like cheering in the car. I'm like, yeah, sounds about right. Okay. And I'll go to bed. And then I wake up to the DQ. And I'm like, or like the news of the DQ. And I'm like, wait, like, okay, well, I have to go back and watch the race. You know, in my mind, I'm imagining some McLaren strategy where like they tell Piastri like, yo, we're gonna bag your championship, like you're gonna crash into Max, like you're gonna take him out, and like it doesn't work, and actually like Oscar accidentally like crashes into Norris, and like they all get exposed, and both of them like get DQ'd, and like Max still wins the race, right? And I sat and I watched the whole race, like when do the McLarens like mess up? Like, when does this go horribly wrong for the McLarens for them to get DQ? I watched the whole race. Lando's even up there, like on the podium. I'm like, did what? The, and then
So
they're
you
like,
had to
well,
go,
yeah.
yeah,
I
go
was like,
do a little bit
yo,
of searching. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I was
I
confused
was
too.
waiting the whole time. I was like, okay, when
I
does the
woke up
Armageddon happen?
and I woke up on Sunday. Colleen and I went out grocery shopping. We're like just out and about, and then she just drops like the McLaren's getting disqualified.
She had the news first.
I was like, wait, what? Like, because I had woken up and I
Dang.
wasn't, I was like, I don't need to. I stayed up and I watched the race and
Right.
everything. Like, I was
Right.
like,
We knew what happened.
that's the way it finished. I was so confused, and then of course did the same thing, doubled back to Twitter to look into it and figure it out, and then I was like, oh wow, I was like, this is fortunate for me.
Crazy, dude. Just so crazy. I'm like, my lord. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's an interesting scenario. All right, so that's a McLaren headline. Eric, give me your next salacious headline.
So my next salacious headline here is no radio, yes problem. And that was just
Okay.
the unfortunate situation for Alex Albon, who had no radio communications with the team for the entire race. Just was not radio wasn't working. He pulls in even during his pit stop. He's trying to like tell them to change things with his front wing and everything by like waving his hands. He's like out of breath trying to like holler through the helmet and everything. And then eventually ends up DNFing after 35 laps just with some different issues with the car and everything, but a pretty quiet and lonely race there for Alex Albon. I think that would be I'd probably get into my head a little bit just sitting there and just hear it, just nothing but you in the car for 35 laps, no feedback, no tire wear. You're just looking out for them to hold out the little sign as you're coming down the pit straight and everything. But yeah, tough race for Alex Albon and for and I saw someone else say online, it seems like week to week the Williams have to sacrifice one of their cars to get the other one to perform well. So we can't have the two of them. No double points finish. I don't know if that's actually a fact for no double points finishes for Williams, but it does seem that only one driver at a time has been able to perform here across the season per race. So a tough day for Alex, but with that said, Carlos Sainz ended up with a really good result, especially after the disqualifications to jump up. I believe he ended up P5 after that.
Yeah, I'm just picturing like Albon on a stone altar, you know, as the rest of Williams like cheers on Carlos Sainz. And then the very next week, it's Carlos Sainz up on the stone altar, right? And then Williams is like cheering on Alex Albon.
Yeah, that's how it seems from week to week. But that is my next salacious headline. What else do you have here for the folks?
Hamilton, the anchor of Ferrari's ship.
All right. So be like
See
dragging
what I've
him.
done there? Like
Yeah.
it sounds like, oh, he's like the anchor, like he holds every. No, he is sinking their ship.
And I mean, he is it's been on, and just to talk about the season as a whole a little bit for Lewis, it's been kind of tough seeing him struggle this much. Like obviously when Lewis and Max were battling, I had a little bit more of a feisty opinion of Lewis in those battles and everything. But like as a driver and everything, he's obviously like one of, if not the best all time. Um, phenomenal driver, and so seeing him have all these struggles, it's like um, for the NBA, the 76ers have multiple times like they had multiple guys over the past 5 years that they've paid like in free agency, picked up a guy who was like a stud on another team, pay him the max contract, steal him away in the off season, and then they come to Philadelphia and they forget how to play basketball. And they're just absolute garbage. And then some of them even go on to other teams right after and then are back to their normal selves, and it's like that's how this feels with Lewis and with Ferrari. It feels lately that no matter who they're bringing into this seat, they are having these same organizational struggles, and it starts to come into question, like with what Aston Martin's doing and everything, like what decisions need to be made there. Like I love Fred Vasseur, but they are through multiple team principals even, so maybe that's not the problem, but multiple team principals, they're struggling to get back to that championship winning expectation that the Tifosi and that the company I think should have at least, or that the drivers that they're bringing in do have these aspirations of world championships with Ferrari and being at that level. And year to year we're seeing them every now and then dabble in the constructors fight, but then primarily in that second, third, fourth kind of battle by the end of the season. Um, and that's just not where they want to be. And seeing Lewis struggle this much, it makes me wonder a lot about the car and the organization, because he clearly, I mean, he's the best of all time probably at this point. And he's having a terrible, the worst season he's ever had. I mean, up until recently, he had never gone a season without winning a race. Now he is Ferrari's longest standing driver in a Ferrari to not have a podium to his name outside of the sprint race. Like that is not a stat that I would have ever thought I would be associating with Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari.
Yeah, it seemed like it would have been a match made in heaven, especially with the like you were saying, the minor successes that Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were having when that was their lineup. Yeah, it felt like, oh man, Lewis is just gonna like knock it out of the park. Obviously, the headline is a bit hyperbolic. He turned in his worst qualifying session of his career, but he still made it up to P8, I think, on a like pretty solid recovery drive. Obviously, he himself is not going to be happy with that. I think if you're just, being just like a general person looking at a performance, you would say like, holy heck, nobody else can do that. You don't see anybody else doing that. Like, what this guy, he's obviously doing something with very little. My brain, as we're talking about this, it's serving up all of the moments over the years, or over the year specifically 2025, of the discordant communication between him and his engineer. Like it's clear he needs more from the team. Like he is demanding more information. He wants more input, like during the race, in the moment. Like you can tell this guy has so much racing IQ. Like he just has bandwidth to play with. Like, bro, he's probably writing an orchestra in his brain while his Ferrari race engineer is just like not feeding him information.
Yeah.
Like the moment that comes out of my mind is the guy is like, okay, like you're slow in like 6, 9, and 11. And then Lewis is like, yeah, okay, but like tell me how to do better. Like give me some input here, right? So like he is just like demanding feedback that it feels like at least, excuse me, his side of the garage like isn't able at all times to give him like in those like critical race moments. So you can feel the power that he has still as a driver and as a competitor, and it honestly feels like the Ferrari ship is like not up to snuff. Like, yo,
Yeah.
we need a better first mate in here. We need to like spit shine this guy. Like I need new masts out here, dog. Right?
Yeah.
So it feels like actually we're in like a like driver too good for team.
Yeah, I feel like, and it's, I mean, with Lewis and Bono, there was never these kinds of issues. And we saw these issues with Ferrari before Lewis came in. We saw Charles asking questions and hearing "we are checking" every 2 seconds in a
Right.
race and then not hearing
Right.
back from the team. Like Lewis
Can you
is,
imagine what that feels like?
oh, I mean, you're just like, okay, like how many corners do I wait until I like, hey, like you there? Like what I guess the next main straight, if I haven't heard back, let me hop on the radio again. But it's like we never heard that with Lewis. We heard giving strong uh strong recommendations to him. Lewis, it's hammer time. Like, hey, get on your horse, push, let's go. We hear that from other teams. We hear GP talking to Max, and we hear him being like, hey, this is what they told Lando. They said, go get you. Like, let's put down some laps now. Let's push this pace. And you see Max
Sure,
react.
they
You're
know
like,
how
they're
to.
getting this feedback. They're getting it in the way that they want to. They have all of this ironed out smoothly. And yeah, that could get better with Ferrari as time goes on, but it's like bad currently. Like there's a difference between something being bad communication versus like just not good enough communication. Like this doesn't seem to be on even the correct trajectory to get to where Lewis is gonna be getting the information and the feedback. Like you said, all the kind of frustrations over the radio that we've heard where it's like his race engineer almost sounds annoyed with him by the end of the race, and it's like, brother, this is
Doesn't
your
he?
job. This is you're if he's asking you for something, like you got to figure out a different way to do it. You can't get annoyed that the dude going 200 miles an hour is frustrated. Like they're under intense pressure. Like you are supposed to be their primary support system throughout this race. Like you can't be getting like, especially the first year you're working with someone, that's the time to really grow that relationship and try and figure things out. Like you getting frustrated is not benefiting anyone here. So yeah, I really hope that next year things do get better. I unfortunately don't know, based on what we've seen this year, if that's going to happen, because I don't feel like I've seen a ton of progress across the year in that atmosphere. So yeah, definitely a tough spot for Lewis. I feel for him because it's clearly not meshing perfectly right now.
Right. And like to your point about the Bono and Lewis connection, I mean like some of those radio messages like they're just legendary. Like I would give my left lung to have like that kind of mind meld with somebody to just like they're just literally like on the same wavelength, right?
Yeah.
And that's years of competing together and
Oh,
building
100%.
systems and all of this stuff, and like the flip side is like we're only given a small window into their communications, into that
Yeah.
paddock, into the garage. Like we only get the narrative that they want to sell, right? Like not trying to make like large, grand like assumptions, but just using the little information we have, there is clear issues like up and down that like need to be solved and these things and it seems like Lewis is doing his best, but sometimes those frustrations come through, and you see the back and forth between management and driver and things like this. So yeah, just a tough road, I think, for Lewis Hamilton's first year at Ferrari. I think a lot of people would have pegged this as like I said at the beginning, like slam dunk. This is just match made in heaven. But definitely more of a rocky road ice cream than we would have expected.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Um, and my last salacious headline here, I have a
Give it
quote,
to me.
which is, "We lost points to the one car team," which was Toto Wolff talking about Max. And so just a hilarious one liner. I know for him, probably said in frustration. It doesn't end up being the case with the disqualifications. They do pick up some points against the one car team of Red Bull, since they Red Bull unfortunately put Yuki in a pretty bad spot leading into the race weekend with his setups and everything for qualifying. Um, but yeah, just a pretty amusing headline for Toto to come out and be like, "Come on, like we're in this constructors battle trying to take P2, and we're losing points out to the a single car. Like, come on, we can't be doing this." So yeah, it ends up being a double podium for Mercedes after the disqualification. I'm sure that statement got retracted later. But the sentiment's still there, and that's the competitive nature of Toto. Like he's trying to get this team to the best finishing position week in, week out, across the year. And he's currently got them in P2 in the championship while not having his drivers be the anywhere close to the most winning drivers on the year, with Max and Lando and Oscar all having a number more race wins than George does. So still a very successful season for Mercedes with P2 in the constructors at this point. It's not done yet, but 40-point gap to Red Bull in P2 there.
Yeah, and an interesting race like from Mercedes themselves. I thought the one-stop strategy for AK Antonelli was quite impressive. Even before he was on the podium, that was a risky call. That was a game day audible made like in the moment because of the safety car. They were like, you know what, I think this is gonna work going on to the hards. So I thought that was epic from Mercedes, ready to make those more marginal calls. I thought that was really interesting. That was part of my other headline. So yeah, I just think a solid weekend for Mercedes, and you can see kind of the differences in attitude there. With them trying to make something out what was like going to be a perceived like really tough race, with AK Antonelli starting at the back. So yeah, solid stuff from them as well. And yeah, I just always appreciate Toto's wit. He's uh always just like what do you call them, like zingers, right?
Yeah, I think it's like the dryness of his, he's Austrian, right? I
He's
think.
probably German.
Okay. Which so either way, very dry humor where it's like to the point that sometimes like that sounds like it could be a joke, like a we lost points to the one car team, but it could also be like we lost points to the one car team. Like,
Right,
come
like
on,
that's a big
like
problem.
yeah. So either way, tongue in cheek, it's he's always very very entertaining person to have around the grid. But yeah, a successful weekend for Mercedes and a really really solid season for them thus far. But Kimi Antonelli, the P17 to podium, phenomenal weekend for him. Getting another podium under his belt in his rookie year is just amazing. So big props to him there. Um, but did you have what other notes did you have here from the race weekend, or other topics to get into here?
You were correct. He is Austrian. Toto Wolff is confirmed Austrian.
I thought German
Um,
at first, but then I was like, I felt like I had heard that before, so I'm glad that
hey,
stuck.
yeah, you knew better than I did. I wanted to double check that. What I thought was really exciting for the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend was the in the wet qualifying. I thought that was like kind of epic. Those sessions are always just so leery, but also like so crazy where you see some of the like what would you say, kind of like some of the more core elements of racing take hold in those sessions where like
Mm,
it did not matter who you were, all that mattered was when you were during that session, right?
yeah.
Like as you were going around the track, like the laps were just getting faster. It was going to be about who had track position, who was literally like setting the last possible lap during that Q3 session. As you saw, as everybody was finishing their hot laps, everybody was going to the top of the board, and it was just going to be about when you finish based on the drying of the track, the line that's getting put down, the changeable conditions, like all of it just like coming through into the. It is not about drive. Well, it's a lot about driver skill, but it's also about like how well can your pit wall, how well can your strategist keep you out on track. We saw
Mm,
teams and drivers trying to take like these insane pit stops to like get on better tires, fit themselves like into a better rotation. Like teams trying to do everything that they could. Bro, it's a 10-minute session. It is a
yeah.
10-minute session, and those drivers were just lap after lap after lap after lap after lap. Normally, Q3 is warm up, hot lap, cool down, warm up, hot lap, cool down. You get two
Mm,
burners, right? You get like real two burner chances usually. Bro, everybody was doing like 6, 7, like 8 laps, and they were all heaters because the tires are holding up. The track is just getting faster. Da, 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 da. Bro, I think that was one of the more interesting qualifying sessions where like you got to see some of these just like core things playing out. And I thought that was really exciting.
yeah, and it brings that driver skill into it increases the balance of car to driver skill when it comes to qualifying. There's obviously always a balance, but we see Carlos Sainz be P3 from qualifying. He's the
Mm,
only driver who's been in the top three for every qualifying at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. He's which is a wild stat, being going from Ferrari to Williams this year. But yeah, I mean, it really does bring that skill into play. It makes it very exciting, and it's one of those things. That also leans heavily on the team decision making there as well, along with that driver skill, because coming up with those plans to go out and put laps in, you're figuring out how much fuel you need, you're figuring out the timing of if they do X amount of hot laps when they're coming around on their last one, we got to make sure they're as close to zeros on that clock as possible to get
right.
as much dryness out of there on the track. It's the same thing that we see during races when there are mixed conditions and the track's drying out, and the drivers and teams are trying to make that call of when to switch from the inters to the slick tires and everything. Like that team aspect of it really comes in heavily when there's some interesting things like this. And in Las Vegas, where it rains once every 2 weeks, they barely get any rain across the year, and we end up with a wet qualifying. It really shook things up across the grid with Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, both being out in the first round of qualifying. Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, all of that first five out, and a number of names that you wouldn't expect to be necessarily out in that Q1 session. So it really does shake up the grid and made for a pretty interesting race here.
Big time agree. Big time agree. Like yeah, I genuinely think qualifying was a treat. I don't know, like it is that kind of thing where like we may never get that type of session again, or like it'll be like a very rare occurrence for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I think it's contracted till 2027, so like a couple more opportunities. But yeah, I think that session may have been like a genuine, just like kind of a one off, and it definitely delivered. Like no red flags, no crashes. Like the whole thing got to play out, right? So very cool in that regard. Some of the other teams that you could look at, we've talked a lot about the top teams and some of the top drivers going into the final two races of the year here, with the Mercedes trailing Red Bull in the constructors fight. That's kind of like one angle you can go for. So as we're kind of trailing to the final races of the season, the battle for seventh in the Constructors' Championship is raging, my friend. Only a few points are separating the Aston Martins, the Haas, and I think like the Kick Saubers, right?
Yeah.
So like, oh my gosh, if you're a fan of Hulkenberg and Bortoletto, boy, have I got a race for you. Qatar 2025, man. So yeah, I think the midfield team fans are gonna be eating good. They're gonna get that P7. Think of the wind tunnel time, my brother.
Yeah.
So like that's what's going on down there with some of those teams.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of excitement there. That's super close. We're seeing those teams within 5 points of each other. We saw Kick Sauber pick up 6 points this week with Nico Hulkenberg's P7. We saw the
Which was
Haas
solid, by the
team.
way.
Yeah, we see the Haas's get the double points. P9 and 10 for 3 points for the team. So that 5 points is well within the realm of possibilities here going in
That's
the
what I'm
last two
saying.
races. It will be interesting to see how it shakes out. The other uh, thing that I did want to talk about, I know we've talked about the disqualification with McLaren, but talking about them in general because we saw them drive the full race and everything.
Oh, I know. I
Lando,
I saw it. I watched it.
but I wanted to give Lando some props and like yes, he made the mistake at turn one in the race, but his qualifying was unbelievable. He was coming through sector two. He was 9/10 of a second up in qualifying on P2. Was flying out there. Minor mistake, but still cruises to that top qualifying time. He was what was it? He was like a little over 3/10 up on Max in P2, and I mean that's a pretty significant margin in qualifying where Carlos Sainz was 400ths of a second behind Max. Like he was crushing it. He set himself up very well. And then unfortunately, like the start of the race didn't pan out, but I felt like he did put in a really solid weekend up until having the issues that they're start managing and going, oh, our floor's a lifting coast, please, lifting coast, and dropping back. Like he was only 5 seconds back before they started like managing that issue. So a really solid race for Orlando, just with the unfortunate disqualification and all. But I was still impressed by him. He is putting together an end of the season that I think is what worthy of a drivers championship. And he's put himself in the best position here and 24 points up on Max and Oscar. So he has to score 2 points more than both of them to clinch the title this week is what I was trying to say
In
so
Qatar.
poorly eloquently earlier. Yes, in Qatar to win before the final race of the season and lock it up.
The other driver that I'm always paying attention to. I'm always watching their race. I thought another really just solid weekend overall. Makes it up into Q3, has a solid performance in Q3, and then I think he was able to just like hold the position that he qualified. I think he would have ended P8, starts P8, ends P8, but then gets the bump up, so he gets a little more points. Isak, Honey Badger, Hadjar, another solid performance in the Racing Bulls. Really, really like watching him drive. So yeah, a solid just like weekend overall. Makes it all the way into Q3 where I mean, even Lewis Hamilton's going out in Q1, my friend. Isak Hadjar makes it all the way to Q3. That's saying something.
Yeah.
A bunch of the top drivers saying like that was just the toughest session that I've ever driven. So yeah, I think that genuinely should put some stripes on some of these drivers. Kind of making it through that session as some of the top in the field. So I really appreciated Hadjar's weekend.
Yeah, and I would say similarly, at least with Liam Lawson's qualifying, he qualifies P6. He unfortunately has the contact during the race and finishes
Mm-hmm.
down the pack and everything. But I mean, for making a case for himself, like when we're talking about a session that takes some of the highest driver skill and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
he puts his car in P6. There he's making a good case for himself in this battle for the final Red Bull seats and everything. Um, so I've got to give him props there. He hasn't always put it together, but he shows that he does have some really solid pace out there. He just has to get the consistency a little bit better um, and yeah, we're probably waiting till postseason to officially hear about some of these driver lineups for the Red Bull organization. Um, but yeah, little shout out to him for his qualifying performance as well.
I'll tell you what, brother. I just might buy me myself. I might buy me a Red Bull hat if he gets that second seat. I'll tell you what.
There we go. It's got to be a cowboy hat though.
Oh,
Red Bull cowboy hat.
hell
Actually,
no. That'd be so
I don't
crazy.
know if I don't know if either of us could pull off a cowboy hat. That's a tough one to sell.
I'm
but
not sure I could do that.
yeah, but that I think that was most of the notes that I wanted to cover for the race weekend. Any other final thoughts here?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
got some things to talk about around the water cooler, my friend. Only the real ones are here, so I'm about to fucking just be just a negative Nancy. Just so all right. So here's the one thing that I really appreciated seeing. I like seeing Jay-Z and Beyonce out in the wild. I didn't know they were
I
motorsport
I
fans.
doubled back. I don't know if they are. I don't know if anyone who's at the grid for the Las Vegas Grand Prix actually likes
This is
motorsports
my
other than
headcanon we're
Terry
dealing with
Crews.
here. This is my headcanon we're dealing with. They are Formula One's biggest fans. That's cool. They're here on a family vacay to watch their favorite drivers race cars. So I thought that was pretty cool. But this is where I get real confused with like the narrative of the United States Formula One race, like, how they like do the show. In some ways, we've conflated the idea of like an actor person with like a racing driver person, and we put our like actor people in these roles of like asking them or being around them when they're like having to describe like racing feats and like motor racing like ideas and tenets and like technical stuff, bro. It's like it's like it's just an ad. Like it's just an ad for the new movie. Like they have the lead actor for Avatar out asking like the post race podium questions. My brother is like, yo, I thought filming Avatar was hard, but that race seemed crazy. Tell me about it. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
I cringed so hard. And then I loved the big head cheats for Lewis Hamilton. Yo, his helmet made his dome look so big. I just pictured him like driving around like big head mode in Formula One, just like, bumping into people, bobbling back and forth. So I thought that was great. I loved his helmet. And then there's the last thing. I promise this is the last thing. Imagine sci-fi film. You're in the theater, lights go black, it opens on like a dark, rainy, neon lit city where like everything's like kind of black, but it's just like greens and pinks for like the weirdest products you've never heard of, and the camera like sinks down into like the weird dark lit streets, and you're like, whoa, like this is a really cool sci-fi location. You're like, no, that's just Las Vegas. That is just the environment of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It is just the most obnoxiously lit place. And the Sphere, brother. Sunny Hayes out there just like looking around. All right, go ahead. I'm done. Go ahead.
No, it's funny. And the Vegas Grand Prix has some like other, so like they were fining people who were stopping and trying to watch like from behind the like little areas. There were like fines being given out. But some people, Colleen showed me this, some people found a loophole. They were there was this escalator like that, like up and down escalator like near the side of the circuit, and people were just doing laps on it, watching the race, and they're like, we're moving, we're not stopping and
Right.
watching.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's Vegas is an interesting place to have a race. The Sphere is kind of insane, a little bit obnoxious. Like I would not want that during the race, but one of the things that I meant to mention earlier when you're talking about Lewis having more bandwidth to play with and everything when he's out there than what he's getting, it well no, it was just like I genuinely think that is like a very real thing, like because we've seen Max talk on the radio and Alonso talk on the radio about watching the video boards while they're driving and everything. And so I'm like imagining how distracting that must be to have the Sphere when you're like, when you've got, I mean, Alex Albon probably thought he was going crazy. He's in his helmet, no radio going, and he's just watching this yellow head like follow him around the circuit. Like that's a very like yeah, bizarro world dimension kind of thing, and you're just in your own
just Blade Runner,
silence.
dude.
Like I would just be talking myself if I was Alex, just to try and keep it together. But yeah, no, I'm with you on there. But that can wrap out these conversations here for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. We had Max Verstappen P1, George Russell P2, and Kimi Antonelli P3 to wrap it out after the disqualifications. Still, the title fight that I said was off last week after the last race is back on, baby. I'm flipping a coin week to week, and it's like, no, championship off. Flip the next week, championship on. It's
great.
Yeah, so we're seeing how it'll go, but 24 points between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri in P2 and P3 there, going into the last two races of the season and of this triple header with Qatar and Abu Dhabi here coming up to wrap us out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't wait for Qatar. Tell me about your rose, thorn, and seed here.
I'll keep it pretty quick, but my rose is that it, as you had mentioned earlier in the episode, it's Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving it might be my favorite holiday. Between that and Christmas, it's a very close fight. I'm pumped for Thanksgiving food. Colleen had a work Thanksgiving potluck today, so she got to bring leftovers home. I already started to dive into some of the Thanksgiving food with some turkey and potatoes and all the good stuff. So I'm definitely excited about that and happy for Thanksgiving season. One thing I'll say is that people start decorating for Christmas a little too soon. I am a big fan of Thanksgiving decorations that I see out and about. I love a good blow up turkey in someone's front yard or some
You're
pilgrims.
such a mark.
I think it's fun that people, especially in my neighborhood, people decorate for like every holiday. Flag Day
Okay.
people have like strings of no, they're not that insane,
Flag
but
Day people.
but they like people decorate
Those cretins.
pretty hardcore for a lot of holidays. Whether Easter to Christmas to New Year's to Halloween and all. And so I enjoy seeing some of the Thanksgiving decorations as well, being one of my favorite holidays. My thorn for this week is that I've unfortunately failed to accomplish one of my two New Year's resolutions, which was I wanted to run a half marathon this year. I did not get around to it. I signed up too late for the Philly half marathon and didn't get chosen from the wait list. So,
Mm.
unfortunately, the only way that I was able to participate there was I was cheering Shane, my buddy, on, and I ran a couple miles. I just hopped in and ran a couple miles with him in the middle of the race and everything to give a little bit of a boost of motivation and everything. So uh, that one will have to go back on the list for next year. But my seed is I forget if I had mentioned this, but I did accomplish my other New Year's resolution, which was to get to the dentist before the end of the year. It was something that I am not a fan of. I had pushed off for far too long. Finally, got that taken care of and everything, and so at least one of those two resolutions is checked off the list. I couldn't go 0 for 2, so that would have been pretty rough for giving myself tasks an entire year to do. To go 0 for 2 would have been brutal. So that is my rose thorn and seed for this week.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like, you would just have to look back over the year and be like, I guess we just chalked that one. That was just a failure, wasn't it?
Yeah, forget about 2025. But
Damn, dude.
it was
Okay,
kind of
okay.
nice though. It was like something that I actively I like picked things that I was like I did want to do them and like thought that I could give myself time to do it and everything and yeah, like I like having specific if I'm gonna do a resolution, I like picking something specific versus just being like, I'm gonna eat healthy this year or something like that. That's very
Sure.
vague and everything. So
Right.
um so yeah, I'm not the biggest New Year's resolution person, but this year I actually did think about it throughout the year and actively like try to get there. So
Okay, yeah, like set an actually attainable goal, one that's like reasonable and like valuable. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, it's weird. I seem to never be able to like complete my New Year's resolutions. Mine's always solve world hunger. I
oh,
never seem to be able to do it. So I'm just
but you're
waiting for a
trying.
successful year,
You're trying
you
though.
know when
That's
you were
what
talking
counts.
about the marathon, the scenes of the marathon episode of Seinfeld were just playing in my head, where the one lady's like, everyone's a winner, and then you have Costanza being like, behold, Costanza, Lord of the Idiots. Like, dude, that episode is classic. I'll give you my rose thorn scene really quickly. I realize I have mine flipped here. So my rose is that I've been enjoying hobbies and activities together. It feels like in a time where like we're siloed by like algorithms and the feed, and like we all just have like our own individual things. I found it's been really enriching to talk about like books and movies and like just like shared common interests by like by no by no like intention. We have a little like Dune book club going on. There's a few people reading Dune, and I think it's fun that like the movie, kind of brought us together, and now we're going back and reading the source material, kind of like as a gang, all at different points, but it is fun nonetheless to all be just kind of encountering the same stories and characters, and I think that's really fun, like being able to talk about it. Kind of in that vein, the kind of movie club has been expanding just a little bit. We've gotten a few holiday watches in. We've done some holiday or Halloween movies. We've done a Thanksgiving film. You and I talked about it. We watched Fantastic Mr. Fox, a Wes Anderson film that I really enjoyed. I loved it. So coming up for Christmas, we'll be watching the Satoshi Kon film about like the idea of found family. That one's called Tokyo Godfathers. It's one that I watched back in June, but I was like really blown away by that film and like also Satoshi Kon's work as well. So I presented that to the group as kind of a possible Christmas movie that we could watch. So that's the one that we're gonna go for. So yeah, I just really enjoy the kind of like communal aspect and just like getting everybody like together and enjoying some similar things. My rose here is, oh yeah, that was my rose. My thorn here is just holiday planning. It's like tough to figure out like what's gonna happen. I like often enjoy them when they're going on, but there's something about like pre and post holiday that is like obviously just like nerve wracking and stressful. So it's pretty generic in that regard. And then my seed is that every room in the house, like every community room, every room that like I would use, has been cleaned, organized, and arranged like in a more like useful way. You know,
Nice. That's a huge
trash taken
accomplishment.
out, like empty boxes, like I'm talking like the wildest shit, right? All the rooms are like now usable. You can like walk in there, you don't like immediately just like inhale dust and like spider webs and stuff, and you can like put something down on the table and then like walk back in later and like pick it up off the table, and it's all like clean and stuff, and it just feels really nice. That we have so much room for activities now, and that just feels good, sir. So that's
Oh,
my that's my
absolutely.
rose thorn and seed.
No, that's a big accomplishment to take on because like sorting through an entire room of stuff is time consuming and tedious, and like also figuring out where to put the things to have them organized is it's that is a task that is pretty overwhelming for my brain to take on. So big props on that, and I'm glad you've got everything in good shape to be feng shuied and spacious and usable a bit more. So yeah, definitely a positive there.
Yeah, because to your point, it's nice to put out some holiday decorations.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, But yeah, with that, bringing us to the end of the cooldown lap does bring us to the end of this week's episode. As always, we really appreciate you guys for listening and following along with the F1 season and everything with us. Join the conversation. We really appreciate you. And thank you all for your time, and happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Next episode after Qatar, we do a new episode after every Formula One event. So if there's a Formula One event, tune into the Tired Boys podcast, because if there's been a Formula One event, there will be a Tired Boys podcast. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you very much for listening. Peace out, everyone.
Gobble, gobble.